Hello friends, welcome to this tutorial. And this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you how you could use Ansible to provision AWS machines to create EC2 instance on your AWS cloud. Now before we go on, a little introduction on what Ansible is and what Vagrant is, because we're going to be using Vagrant, we're going to be using Ansible, we're also going to be using a tool called a VirtualBox. These three tools are very vital to complete this tutorial. Number one, Ansible is a tool that helps you to connect to local or remote machines and execute commands on those machines. You could do whatever you want to do in those machines. You could help you provision if you want to do provisioning and automation. Ansible is a tool that can help you do that. Now Vagrant is a tool that it wraps around your VirtualBox tool. The VirtualBox is just a tool that helps you spin up virtual machines on your system. For example, if you have a Windows system and you want to do some testing on Linux, instead of you to go to a Linux system which you don't have at the moment, you could spin up a Linux host on your Windows system, and you could run Linux commands, do pretty much whatever you want to do as though you are working on a Linux machine. So the VirtualBox is very vast. It supports a lot of operating systems. You could have your Ubuntu, you could have your CentOS, you could have your Windows, you could have whatever you want on your VirtualBox. Now currently I'm using the Vagrant 1.63, and the reason I'm using the Vagrant 1.63 is because of my version of Windows. I'm using the Windows Vista, and the Windows Vista is more compatible to the Vagrant 1.63 based on my experience and tools I've used. It's been flawless using the Vagrant 1.63. You could do whatever you want to do with your Vagrant 1.63. Older versions of Windows, you could go for more recent versions of Vagrant. Now for you to check your version of Vagrant, you simply just type your Vagrant version. You type the command on your command line Vagrant, the 2 dashes version, and it's gonna bring you, this is Vagrant 1.63. Now I'm also using the VirtualBox. I'm using the VirtualBox 3.2 because this is more compatible with the version of Vagrant and also the version of my laptop. Like I said before, you could also use older versions of VirtualBox, but if you are having a Vista, this is ideal for you. Now let's go ahead with a tutorial. First of all, I'll be showing you a checklist of what we're going to need for this tutorial. Number one, we need to have an AWS account. An AWS cloud account. It's pretty easy to open. You just go to aws.amazon.com, you create an account. When you create an account, you create a user in the account, and place the user in a group and give the user admin privileges. That way we will be able to, with admin privilege, the user can pretty much do whatever it wants to do, like it's an admin. And in order for us to create instances remotely, we need admin privileges too on the user. Next, we also need to install the Boto library and the AWS command line interface on our virtual machine, the VirtualBox that we're going to be creating. Then we need to install the Python pip. I'm going to show you how you install the Python pip, then configure the AWS command line interface. We configure it with the access keys, and we'll run some commands. Then we'll have a look at the Vagrant files and stuff like that. Now for us to spin up the machine, let me just show you. Vagrant uses what you call a Vagrant file. If you look closely here, the Vagrant file, it's like a startup instruction on the type of machine you want to boot, on the type of the number of machines you want to boot, and whatever you want to provision. Right here, I configured. I have two machines configured in my laptop, and we're just going to be using one. And the OS here, this is the web OS here, is a Ubuntu Trusty 64. This is the Ubuntu 64 machine, and it's local, and I assigned the IP address of 192.168.0. and you could have a different Vagrant file if you want. It all depends on you. If you want, you could also have this, but for ease of use, I'm just going to be using this. This pretty much is not really necessary. The Ansible host you have here, because I'm not going to be using the Ansible host. I'm pretty much just going to be using the web server machine I created right here. So let's pretty much start and see. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to put up our virtual machine. We're going to do the Vagrant. Use the Vagrant command. Vagrant up starts the virtual machine. So you have to specify what virtual machine you're going to be that's coming up. Like here now, I have two virtual machines. If I want to spin up the Ansible machine I have, I named it Ansible. It doesn't really mean that it's what it is. I just name it Ansible. You could name it whatever you want. But I'm going to be spinning up the web server machine. Once again, I'm not going to go to details on how this is done. I assume you just know how you install Vagrant and and all those steps. Now let's go on. This is Vagrant up web server. It's going to take some time, but Vagrant is going to spin up the web server virtual machine. Now if you notice here, you see it's bringing up the web server up with a VirtualBox. Like I said, I have VirtualBox already installed in the system, and it's looking for the VirtualBox with all the settings I specified. There is coming up. You see web server port 222. It's coming up. Let's just wait for it. Let's wait for it. While this comes up, let's bear in mind that the tools we're going to be using. Once we have the Ansible installed in your virtual machine, I already have Ansible installed, so I'm not going to bother myself installing Ansible, and I would just assume you have that already installed. Now, we're going to be installed the Boto library and the AWS command line library. Now, what this does, the Boto library and the AWS command library, they help us to connect to the Amazon Web Cloud. These are resources that Amazon made available for us to be able to, like a plug-in, for us to be able to connect remotely from any host to our Amazon Web Cloud. And the key parameter that is needed here is the access keys. The access keys are key, and you're going to get the access keys when you create your Amazon user. Like right here now, I have a Amazon the user playbook tree. I click here the programmable access, which enables you to have an access key ID, and a secret key. The reason you have an access key ID and a secret key is so this enables the remote host to be able to connect to this account and run privileges, do stuff on the account, anything you like to do. Let me show you once again. Let's put it in the Ansible group. The Ansible group has admin access. Like I said, it has admin access. So make sure your user has an admin access. So we're going to create the user. Now, if you notice here, we have access key ID, secret key. Access key ID, secret key. You need these two Make sure you keep store this in a good place. Make sure you keep it